Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Ahmed Susi here, the Interim Executive Director of CAIR Arizona. And today we're going to be talking about Voter 101, learning actually how to vote. You heard us talk a lot about the voting process and the election and all that different stuff about getting registered. But now today we're actually going to be talking about this is how you vote. And I'm joined by two amazing guests. One of them is our lead organizer, Sister Sakina. How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, doing well. Thanks for having me.
That is good to hear. We're also joined by one of our board members, but who is also an organizer as well. Sister Azza, how are you?
I'm good, Ahmed. How are you?
I am great. I'm excited to be joining by two all-stars. I mean, these are the people that I ask voting questions about. So we have two top-tier people here today. But let's get started. This is going to be Voter 101, right? So the first, you heard us talk about this is how you get registered to vote. How do you actually vote? And there's a lot of first-time voters in this election, and there's unfortunately also a lot of misinformation. But the great thing is, what I love is I've seen such a proactive effort of groups trying to correct the record, right? Because voting is our people power. That is the one thing we have to say our elected officials aren't doing a good job or are doing a good job, and we want to support them. So we're not going to tell you who to vote. You know, we're nonprofits. We're not endorsing any candidates. We truly believe that we want to give access to the most people on voting because we want that people to use their people power. So this is Arizona specific too. So there might be other ways or other little different things. And if you share this video with your cousin in Florida, maybe it might be a little different how to vote, but this is how to vote in Arizona. And we're going to start that there are three different ways how to vote. You have vote in person, you have mailing in the ballot, and then you actually have a drop-off at an actual drop-off ballot box. But we're going to start first with mailing in person, the traditional way you may have seen in movies. And for that, we have Azza. Azza, can you tell us a little bit more on how to vote in person here in Arizona?
Yeah, Ahmed, I'm going to need your help too in sharing that screen and really showing everyone as we're going along. But one of the three ways, like Ahmed said, is in-person voting. So, you know, once you fill out your ballot, right, do your research. If you have questions, make sure you're putting some questions in the chat. Beneath this video, we can provide some information on websites you can go to look at candidates and that sort of thing. But in-person voting, if your county has a vote center, you can use any of those vote centers. And if there is not one in your county, you can find a specific polling place at arizona.vote. So even for your precinct or, you know, like going to arizona.vote, one, you can check your voter registration status, and two, you can also check like where you can vote, your polling place, and you can also check in on your ballot after you have dropped it off to see if it has been received, which you should. And Ahmed, I want you to go into, you know, what you need to bring and the 3 IDs that you can use going in there. So if you want to share the screen and tell us all about it, that would be great.
Sure. So previously, I just right now shared the Arizona.vote website, and this is the official website from the Secretary of State. So Secretary of State Hobbs, she's in charge of our election process, and they dedicated this website. Super easy, Arizona.vote, and we'll put it in our comments. This is the official state website, which has a lot of great information. Like Azza was saying, you can check where your voting location is, check where to register. Unfortunately, the registration deadline has passed. So if you're not registered, you won't be able to get registered for this election, but still, you know, register for the next one. But you'll be able to tell you where your voting locations are. The website that I was previously at after this was the Maricopa specific website. So we have a county recorder, and that person is in charge of the actual election within the county. So most of us are in Maricopa, but we can't forget about our brothers and sisters in Pima, Coconino. I mean, those are the main three, but Yavapai and other as well. And they'll have actual websites dedicated to that specific county. So if you want to get even more into your specific county, they have an enter address here. And one thing that you were saying is about vote centers. So usually before COVID kind of changed a lot of our procedures, you'd have to go vote at your specific precinct. And that was a dedicated spot to where you would vote. And they're all different locations. Some of them are like police stations, or other places are like stores, so, or storefronts. So there was a bunch of different locations, but because of COVID, they kind of wanted to simplify things. Maricopa specifically, there's vote centers in other counties as well, but there are some here in Maricopa. And the great thing about it is you could vote at any vote center. So let's say there's a precinct next to your house and that was your official precinct, but before that, or let's say you're at work and you live on the other side of the county and there's a vote center right there, and you don't want to wait until you're going back home to vote, you could vote at that actual vote center. And before we get into the IDs, I just wanted to ask you, Azza, voting in person, have you had long lines, or do you usually vote by mail? How do you usually do it?
I usually vote by mail because it is one, even prior to COVID, now that COVID is here, it's the safest way you can vote, right? Like, you don't have to get in contact with anybody, right? But a lot of people like the experience of going in and waiting in lines, right? So it just kind of depends, right? Just know that most jobs are required to give you the day off or time off the day on November 3rd to go vote. So you can check with your position, your organization, and see if they can give you the time off. It just kind of depends, right? And this is where voter suppression comes in. And so that's why, mailing in your ballot or requesting your ballot to vote by mail is such an important thing to do, because of all the voter suppression that we're all working to avoid, right? There are lines, there are people that wait in line an hour or two. I don't know how things will be this year. A lot of people have been voting by mail. And I want to reiterate that the 23rd, which is tomorrow, is the last day you can request to vote by mail. So if you can do that and avoid having to go and wait in lines, please do. But I know a lot of people do love the experience of going in and like waiting in line. It is, like you're practicing your right, so yeah.
I am the same way. I vote by mail just because it's so easy. But I remember my first election, I had a high school teacher who gave us extra credit if we registered to vote. So I remembered, I registered, and once there was an election that I was able to go into, I was like, oh, I'm definitely voting in person. I want to, do the whole process. And I remember I went super early to avoid the lines. There wasn't too bad of a line in my precinct. I know, alhamdulillah, I'm privileged, because you hear a lot of times in other places where the line is, 10, 11 hours. And you see these people who are committed to making sure they vote. One of the reasons why is because a lot of us weren't able to vote when our country was founded. So just voting is a civil rights act. But I know that I wanted to go get a sticker. That was my big thing. I was like, I want to get the vote sticker. I posted on Instagram. I wanted to, tell everyone I'm doing my civic duty. But then you're right. Once the mail-in ballot, I realized, oh, this is so much simpler. I went with that. But I know a lot of people who are still like, I want to go vote in person so I can get the sticker, right? That's what the state owes me for voting, or something like that. The great thing about Maricopa specifically, I don't know if they're doing this in Pima and Coconino, is when you get your mailed-in ballot, it actually comes with a sticker. So I agree with Azza. The safest way, COVID-19, and we'll talk a little bit more about other things that might hinder voting in person, but for COVID-19, the safest way, mailing your ballot or drop it off. If you don't really want to wait in line, you still get your sticker. You could go outside and take a picture, pretend you were voting in line. So that's not an obstacle anymore. But let's go back to your initial question. I apologize, we kind of ran around a little bit. What do you need to bring to the vote center or your actual precinct? Well, super simple. What you need is some sort of identification, and that doesn't technically mean license, right? There are a lot of different options, and I'm actually going to go back to sharing the screen. That's I was still on share screen. But now we're on another website. And this is Citizens Clean Election Commission. This is another government website. And this has been my favorite website of the 2020 election, just because not only of all the information there that's on there, right? One of the best things is how government works. It tells you about some countywide positions where you might have not learned about. Definitely, I didn't know about some of these positions until I, started working at CAIR. I'm like, oh, okay, this is actually very important. But the best thing is how interactive it is. Sometimes you see a government website and you're like, is this from when the internet was invented? But Citizens Clean Elections is one of those sites that is super, super interactive. And to answer your question, what do I need to bring to the polls? Well, it tells you right here, you need to have an ID. And what type of ID? Well, there's 3 different types of groups that you would need. So if you have an Arizona driver's license, you could come here, you could check, well, I have a license. And then you can press continue. Then it's going to ask you, is this the address that's on your current registration, right? Some of us in Arizona, the driver's license are like 50 years old, and you might have moved from the time you actually registered initially. So if for some reason it isn't on your current registration, then you'll see that you might need to bring another thing that says it's the current registration. But let's say it's super easy. It's the same address. Ahmed, I lived in this one place. I haven't moved. It's all the same thing. Continue. Yes, it's the same address. Perfect. You're ready to vote. That simple. But let's say it's a little bit harder, right? It's so much harder that you don't have a driver's license or you don't have any of these types of IDs. Well, you can click, I don't have any of these, and they'll give you some other options. So you have a utility bill in your name. So you have an SRP bill from the last 90 days. You could click that, and I'll tell you, you need to have another form of ID, right? So we could have just sent you a list, but to me, I'm someone who needs the lights, the buttons, that interaction. And I love this site because I have my utility bill, and then I have my insurance card, right? So I'm gonna press continue. Perfect, you're ready to vote. So it's that simple. I recommend, and this site will be on our comments, so you can click it. I recommend if you're going to go vote in person, not drop off your ballot or anything like that. If you're gonna go vote in person, go to this website, make sure you have the right ID. And like Azza said, you want to educate yourself on voting. It's one thing to vote, but it's another thing to be informed about voting. So I know sometimes you get a ballot and you're like, what's a county recorder? I didn't know I get to vote for the treasurer or anything like that. So come to this website. It has a lot of great features. And one of the great things too is, let me just, elections, how to vote, how to vote. It also has voters with disabilities, so that's perfect. For voting in Arizona has become more accessible, and you have some options here on talking about how to vote with a disability. And I know not only disability, there's also accommodations for people who may be in senior center homes and stuff like that. So definitely check Arizona Vote, check Maricopa. But if you're only going to go to one, I recommend this one just because it has so much information. But that's voting in person. Before we jump into the 2 other ways about voting, I want to talk about another type of voter suppression that happens, and that's voter intimidation, right? And unfortunately, that's a reality, and it's an even more reality now with the with the rhetoric that's going around, right? And what's worse, alhamdulillah, I've never had someone try to intimidate me from voting personally, but I know just like the census, people want to scare people before they even get there, right? That's the whole thing about the citizenship question. It was kind of an accomplished job that fear was already ingrained into our communities. And that's what we don't want to see happen here. I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, that voting, just to have the right to vote is something people gave their blood, sweat, and tears for us to have that right. So to kind of be like, I don't want to do it, is kind of a disservice to those who came before us. But I want you to know you have the right not to be intimidated to vote. We have a lot of rights. Does that actually happen? That's another thing. But you do have that right. And the great thing is there are a lot of services that are out there for people to protect your right to vote. So I want to jump to Azza to talk about a phone number. I'm going to give it to you guys right now. It's 866-687-8683. And this is a hotline. Azza, can you tell us a little bit about this hotline?
Yeah, if you do experience any intimidation, which, just so you know, in the past, couple of elections, a lot of groups will send out folks to make sure, a lot of like advocacy groups will send out folks to make sure that no one is being intimidated at the polling location. I am sure it's going to be the same this year. So, like, don't worry, go and vote. If anybody tries to intimidate you, make sure you're calling that hotline. No one should intimidate you, regardless of your race, your political views, your religious views. Like if you're wearing a hijab and someone is intimidating you, make that phone call, make that phone call. So yeah, another thing I think that we haven't gone over, Ahmed, was if we do wait, or if you do wait till November 3rd to actually vote, make sure you are in line before 7 o'clock. The rules are strict, and it doesn't matter that day, whatever rhetoric it is, right? 7 p.m., everything is like shut off. So make sure you're in line before then. And if someone is there, and if someone is like, let's say you got there at 7:50, and someone is telling you, or excuse me, 6:50, and someone is telling you, hey, like, you can't vote, they can't do that. You got there before 7 p.m. Let's make sure that you vote because you got there before 7 p.m.
Sorry, go ahead.
So just making sure that, like, make that phone call. Make that phone call if someone is bullying you in the polling location.
You're 100% right for bringing that up, because that's another way of intimidation, right? It's that because as long as you're in line, like you said, before 7 o'clock, they have to let you vote. And one of the things we're seeing nationally is that some people might take it on themselves to try to be the poll police, right? There's no such thing as poll police. There are poll monitors, or people who are actually working the polls, and you know who those people are, right? They're going to be in the front of the line. When you get your ID, they get you the ballot, you go over there. But there's some people who might dress up a little bit formally, or might come with a fake uniform, stuff like that, to say, oh, we're checking IDs, or not even that nefarious. Oh, are you a citizen? Oh, you can't vote, stuff like that. No one should be doing that. And even worse, like what Azza said, 6:50, it cuts off at 6. Polls close at 7, so make sure you're in line. But we want to be good, right? My dad always tells me not to procrastinate. So don't wait till November 3rd to vote. You could vote right now. Watching this video, you could vote right now. You have until October 30th to vote early. And the great thing about vote centers is if you find one place that's super busy, maybe there's another place a little bit farther, but you find out that's empty. So vote now, vote early. And if you want to go vote in person, I remember I loved it just because I got to actually say I went and did it. But it is a way, and you should do it without the fear of intimidation. And if someone tries to intimidate you, you have this phone number, and there are lawyers to help you. You can even give us a call. A lot of people are going to be making sure that this election runs smoothly. So don't feel like you're at it alone, right? You have the resources. We're here for you, and we're going to make sure you can vote. You can make sure you could cast that vote. So, Azza, anything else for voting in person you want to mention?
Okay. You touched on something, and it just got me all like tingly inside. Voting is happening now. Voting ends November 3rd. So voting is not November 3rd. Voting is happening right now as we're speaking. November 3rd is the deadline. So Ahmed, I cannot emphasize what you just said enough. Like, vote right now.
Honestly, you shouldn't even need to watch this video because you already voted. You should have already been on top of it. But no, I understand.
True.
It gets busy. You have until November 3rd is the deadline. That's how you should look at it. It's not this many days to election day. But thank you so much, Azza, for voting in person. We're going to shift now to 2 different ways to vote. The 2 ways that me and Azza vote, and I think a lot of us in Arizona vote this way, and that's by mail and drop off ballot box. So we're going to turn over to Sister Sakina. Sister Sakina, can you talk to us a little bit about mailing your ballot?
Right. So you have to request a ballot. It needs to be sent to your home. So the last day to request a ballot is actually October 23rd. So it's coming right around the corner. You got to request this physical ballot. It'll be sent to you. And the last day to mail it in is the 27th. Basically, you fill it in with a pen, nice boldly, and you put it in the envelope and you sign and date it. Your signature is very important. If you don't have a signature on it, actually it won't go through. You have to sign it. And for myself, they ask for your number too, in case anything comes up or they need to verify, confirm something, you put your phone number on it. It's official mail, and the post carriers will treat it as such. This is for mailing in.
I want to jump in real quick, if you don't mind. I'm sharing right now the Arizona Vote, the Arizona.vote website, and like Sister Sakina said, you had until October 23rd. That is the deadline. I know because the Secretary of State tweeted us out that there were some ads that said, have you got, you don't have to request it, your ballot's coming to you anyway. That's not true. If you've never got a ballot before, or you want to get a ballot, you have to request it. And the deadline isn't October 23rd, 11:59 p.m. No, it's business hours, so it's 5 p.m. So make sure to get that done, and you can do it online. You don't have to go anywhere. And so Arizona.vote, get your ballot by mail, and you could either join the permanent early voting list, or you could do the one time. I'm on the permanent list because I want, send it to me. I just don't want to this one time, but you have these two different options. Exactly. And like Sister Sakina said, the signature is key. Signature is key. So I'm gonna jump on, put a pin in that point right there, because I'm gonna mention about why it's important. But let's go back to drop off ballot box.
Right. So drop off is everything, the same thing that you do with mails. You want to make your selections, put it in the envelope, seal it, sign it, and put a good working number on there. So, and then you just walk to a drop-off center, and basically it's like a box inside of Chandler City Hall or any of these designated centers, and you put it in that box there, take a picture, put it on social media to encourage your friends and family to do it and show everybody that you did it. When you vote, it's public record. Who you vote for, of course, is private, but when you vote, actually, it's public record. So for the mail and drop-off options, you can track your ballot. You want to do that. You just want to make sure that it's been received. There's a way you can do that, and I think Ahmed will drop the link in the comments or under this video. You'll see the link, inshallah, in your county. So the link will be in the comments, right, Ahmed? I'm not just saying that.
I'm actually going to share my screen again to show you guys the link. But yeah, all these links will be there. So let's go for Maricopa County Elections Department. We're back on where do I vote. But if you go to their main election site and you scroll down, one of the great things is they were doing text alerts that you could have signed up for. So you could actually, I know people got alerts like, hey, your ballot's coming in the mail, and hey, we received it. But right here, you have check your early voting ballot status. And it'll tell you your signature is validated. But then just Tuesday, they actually started counting votes. They're not going to release the numbers yet, but they said, I checked mine, it said your signature was validated and your vote was counted. So alhamdulillah, I have no issues. I remember the 2016 election, I was in Louisiana, so I did a absentee mail-in ballot, and I waited last minute, right? I was just like, I got other stuff, too important, so I filled it out, sent it in, and on election day, at first I saw that Arizona had a lot of issues with signatures, and there was a problem, so I checked, and it said that my ballot was not counted, and I started freaking out. I was like, oh my God, I was freaking out, but I found out that the issue was corrected and it was counted, and that's something that I would rather have that scare now. So if it doesn't get corrected, I could go in and get that issue fixed right away. So that's why we stress early voting, just so you could check to make sure everything is okay. Because November 3rd, everything is going to be crazy, right? You're not going to be really able to just go into the county recorder's office because it's going, until probably a week, it's going to be pretty insane. So that's why we recommend voting early. And that's so right here is to do it, and we'll definitely have the website on our comments. Anything else, Sakina?
I don't think so, but those are the 3 ways I think that we covered, and I got to hop off in 5 minutes, but I just want to say your vote counts, your vote matters. Look up the story of the starfish and the boy. Every starfish matters, that he was thrown back into the sea. Look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. It matters, so please vote, make a difference.
Thank you so much, Sakina, and we're gonna be wrapping up soon, so don't worry. These are the 3 ways. If you have any questions about them, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be able to answer it. The only thing that I want to remind people is that this is a question that we get a lot, is that do I have to vote for every single thing, or can I just leave my ballot just for a couple things? I recommend you use your full force of voting power and vote for every single option you have. Definitely do it informed, right? Well, Azza said, you can go to Clean Elections to learn a bit. But no, it's not going to get rejected just because you voted for, state treasurer and you didn't vote for president or anything like that. So no pressure, but pressure to make sure you vote for everything. The one thing though that I know a lot of people are like, Ahmed, I don't want to look up every single thing. Why should I? And I want to remind people that it is a little bit of effort, but a lot of people post, a lot of elected officials post on Twitter and social media. So you could just Google these people and they'll tell you a lot about how they feel about certain things. So it might be 10 minutes, but this vote is, going to set up the next 4 years. So Azza, did you have anything before we wrapped up, or?
No, just get out and vote. That's all.
And I'll leave it like that. That's the most important thing. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, again, if you have any questions, give us a call. We're here for you. Make sure to vote. After this video, go out to vote and make sure all the relatives, cousins, neighbors are all voting. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you soon. Wassalam.